Okay, stand by for stream. Stream is connected. All right, so I'm going to count down, not over this mic, but from 5, 3, 2, 4, 5, 4, 3, and then no 2 or 1. And on the 1 beat, you will begin with camera 1, which is Paul straight in front of you. Okay? And that's when we're going. All right, here we go.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this month's Audio Production Town Hall. We're glad you could join us. Each month you'll find us here spouting off on all kinds of different topics related to audio production, from making records to sound for film and games and beyond. We hope you'll plan to join us regularly, but if you should miss a session, you'll be able to find an archive recording at the same link. Today we'll be talking about thriving in the gig economy, including best practices and skill sets and nurturing relationships for becoming a successful freelancer and doing what you love as an independent in the modern audio industry. My name is Paul Mauceri, and I am the lead for the Career Development Audio Arts team. Joining me today is Orlando-based voice actor and Full Sail Audio Production Bachelor's graduate Ricky Boyles. Ricky's clients have included renowned brands like Lego Technic, Red Bull, Marriott Vacation Club, and iHeartRadio. Ricky is also an International Thespian Society alumnus who has trained under respected voiceover actors Amy Breedlove and Paul Schmidt. Mm-hmm. So Ricky, thanks so much for joining us today. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah. So I thought we'd start off by you just talking about your journey, entering the world of voiceover acting. That's what you do, but how you approached it from as a freelancer, since that's essentially what you are, right? As a voiceover actor.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I started. It was 2019, I was graduating with my bachelor's degree. While I was in school, I really never had the intention to work into like a studio or a traditional recording engineering job. When I was going to school, I wanted to take what I could from the classes that I was taking and make it into an acting career. Because Full Sail doesn't have any performing acting programs. Even in my degree, I had one real vocal class that I did that showed me different vocal techniques. So there's not really like a path that you can just say, I'm going to start here and this is my end journey for voice acting. So I kind of started taking what I wanted from classes, and I probably could have studied a little bit harder in certain ones, but I'm like, I'm not going to use this aspect of my life, so I didn't put as much into those. But when I got to the points where I was taking classes, components of the classes that spoke to voice acting, I went in on them, and it actually started to open my eyes a little bit to more things I can do than just voice acting, but still using my voice, using for game design, sound design for games and things, and coming up with like character noises, using my voice for Foley. Instead of like banging on things to make the noises to create, sometimes I just use my voice and would just recreate them like Michael Winslow from like Police Academy. And it started to like snowball a little bit to the point when I graduated, I now had a skill set where I could make sound for video games if I needed to. Wasn't something I was looking into, but it's an option. Yeah. And then I started looking into how can I make money doing with my voice. I mean, that's what is the simplest way that I can take the training that I have now and move it into a career. And I started just looking like anybody else online on Google and just searching what are voice actors doing today? What are ways and avenues to get into the industry? And my training was, I have acting training from high school. I'm an honor thespian. I acted all the way through college. I loved it, but I never saw it as a way to make income. I just saw it as like a hobby that I was going to do.
Right.
Full Sail, when I got the degree, started making, okay, now I can learn to market myself and actually find ways to generate income as opposed to working a 9-to-5 and a job that you just clock into. And it took a little while, but I would say the majority of my time spent on freelancing sites like Fiverr, Upwork, and just trying the pay-to-play sites like Voices.com and Voice123. that's what kind of started my journey into it, because I started to figure out, okay, there's a way to make money. I just have to kind of play the game that these different websites play and kind of explore my options.
That's great. So I love how you said that you took what you needed from the classes based on the specific path that you wanted to pursue within the field, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine a lot of people, at AP have the desire to become like engineers or editors or sound designers, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, like I said, in the sound design class, I learned how to, edit in certain content into programs that are not normal for an everyday voice actor. Like I only use Logic, for example,
right.
but I'm trained in Pro Tools. I know how to use Cubase. I know how to use Reaper and other types of DAWs. But for me, like the skills that I got from the classes, like sequencing technology and my audio post-production classes, learning how to do everything myself as opposed to worrying about how to find an engineer, find somebody who can do this, that I started to kind of create like the jobs for myself through that, for the knowledge.
Yeah, I think it's such an important thing to understand for those that are doing this, to prepare to enter that world as a freelancer. You really kind of have to be a jack of all trades within the field. Like you have to know how to, produce, engineer, whatever, edit up to industry standards, right?
Absolutely. Even marketing. I mean, I'm my own street team, my own social media coordinators right here. I don't have anybody that I can just, hey, can you put this up online? I think it was a service called Hero Post that just learned how, I can just post to one thing and it posts to several things. I had no clue going into it how to do that kind of stuff. So I've had to rely on a lot of other smart people for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's another question we get asked all the time in career development is, how do they get started? It's the marketing piece is so critical too, and it's not necessarily what they're learning. I mean, they get some of that in their coursework, but how did you go about tackling that aspect?
So I started, like I was saying, I started just going online to different freelancing websites and looking at what other successful artists were doing. Like if I was, as a voice actor, when I put in just looking for voiceover actor on Fiverr, for example, you get a list of 700 voice actors.
Right.
And I look at the first few rows. What are these guys doing? How is their wording put in a way that gets someone interested in learning more about that person and clicking on their profile? It starts with just your photo, like having a nice headshot, something that's just like someone looks at, oh, this person looks professional, and they click. Yeah. That in itself is like just getting out the door. Because when I first started, I just took my phone, did a little selfie, put it online, and I wasn't getting any clicks on it. I'm like, oh, it's not professional looking. I realized I have to have it, squared up. And even down to the wording and the algorithms and how everything is all keyword based. I had to search up all that stuff and look at when someone's looking for a voiceover artist to hire them, what keywords are they searching? And I would have to, kind of do the homework myself and search those things on Google and find them.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a great lesson there for those that aren't sure, is just to go and see how other people are doing it, what's working for others,
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Fiverr, Upwork. Are there any other sites that you think would be good for aspiring freelancers, not necessarily voice actors, but
freelancing in general?
Actors? Yeah,
LinkedIn, 100%. If you're not on LinkedIn, using it properly, like not just like posting and reposting, somebody else's link, but like actually using it as a way to build a community, a network of other people, showing your talents, showcasing your work. LinkedIn is probably the most successful prong of my marketing that I use, and it's all through direct marketing. It's emails that I myself write. I use a CRM called Apollo that uses LinkedIn. It actually integrates LinkedIn to it. So when I'm searching things in Apollo and I have all these different parameters of like, I want to look for producers that live locally in Florida or producers that are just in LA. And the parameters are in the CRM are even more intricate than using LinkedIn by itself. Wow. But LinkedIn in itself is such a huge tool that I think a lot of people don't use enough. Yeah. And when it comes to like getting involved in the freelancing world, like you're going to find tons of people on there, way more than most. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's a tremendous resource. I always, tell the students that we work with, you really have to have a professional LinkedIn profile. It's such an amazing networking tool to find people in your field. So yeah, that's great. You said Apollo is the CRM that you use?
Yep.
It's Apollo.ie, is it, I believe?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep. And then there's a way that you can use the system. So if you're just starting out, they have a free version that you can start out with just to play with it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you though, it is an investment into you that I would recommend everybody do if you're looking for an easy, user-friendly CRM that does link directly to LinkedIn, because it is great. I don't have to actually go to the LinkedIn website to search for leads. I can just input the data that I want right into Apollo, and I can put them into sequences. And right now I'm sitting here, but it's working for me behind the scenes, sending emails. I'm doing anywhere from 400 to 500 emails a day.
Wow.
I'm sending out from LinkedIn, and I just set it and forget it.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah.
Any other sites that you've used or have been on to get to where you are now? By the way, just so people know, you started doing this just a few years ago, right? 2020?
Yep.
After you graduated around?
Yep. I graduated, and then the pandemic happened, and I realized, ooh, I can do this from home.
Yeah.
And I actually had a little bit of an advantage where a lot of voice actors who have been working in the industry for years had never worked from their homes and had to build their own home studios. I kind of had the toys and the tools already from coming as a graduate, so I didn't have as much startup to worry about.
Yeah.
I used the equipment that I had in my launch box, and I just started putting myself out there. I created my own demo. I found some sound clips on a free website. I threw the sound to my voice and started marketing myself. It started with Fiverr. I would say Fiverr and Upwork were the two because they're free. You don't have to pay nothing for them.
Right.
When I started getting a little bit of income, I started to put more money into the pay-to-play sites because at the time I thought that's what people did. Oh, you go to voices.com, that's where jobs are. And it wasn't really until I started connecting with Paul Schmidt and learning about direct marketing that I stopped using the pay-to-play sites as much. But I used voices.com for a long time, and Voice123, Bodalgo, which is a European, German-based site, VO Planets, an English-based. So there's a lot of them out there. That's the thing. There's so many out there that it can get overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I always come back to, if anybody's like, oh, I have so many things going on and I don't know where to look for the work, I always tell people go back to direct marketing, because that is where you're going to make your most money and your best relationships that you can get repeat business from. Because the thing about Fiverr and Upwork, they all take percentages of your work. It's like having an agent or a manager. They're going to take 10 to 20% of your income. If you're direct marketing, it's all mine. I'm not giving it to anybody else. I just work directly one-to-one. I use, I think, Waves app or Wave app. It's like a invoicing app that I use. That's free too, and it creates invoices. I send them off to people, and then I get credit card payments come through directly in my account. It's nice.
Excellent. Wow.
It's nice.
Right, and you've done, I mean, since starting, you've done over 900, you've had over like 900 gigs since 2020. I mean, that's astounding.
Yeah.
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
That just blows my mind. Like,
a lot of it was just, it was repeat business that definitely got me there for sure. It's not, I'm not getting 900 new clients.
Right, but still.
That'd be nice. But the repeat business is what, it's like having compound interest. It just, I have people come back to me. Sometimes I get people that I've worked with so much, they trust me so much that I'm not even really auditioning. I'm just sending them, like, here's what I think it sounds like, and they just take that and use it. The best ones are when you're auditioning and they just use your audition. And it's like, oh yeah, we're good. We got, your sound quality is wonderful. We don't need to do anything else. And they just take that and I don't have to worry about doing anything else.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, I love how, you kind of took advantage of, the pandemic happened right around the time you graduated, which could have been, like you could have thought, oh, what do I do now? But instead, you made the most of it. Just that's part of like, speaks to the whole idea of just rolling with things. I mean, everyone had to roll with the pandemic, but in the industry, you have things like the strike, the recent SAG-AFTRA strike. I mean, these things happen. It's like you have to just talk a little bit about like what you have to do as a freelancer to just kind of roll with those things.
I would say that the number one thing is to always keep learning. Even to this day, I still take acting classes. It's never going to stop for me, like the learning aspect of it. So using your time, because time is the absolute number one best commodity that a voice actor or freelancer in general has, because you can't get it back. I can't create more hours in a day. So learning how to get through your work using, I use the training that I got through my sequencing classes to learn how to edit a lot faster. I learned just your time is so valuable that you can't spend just sitting around doing nothing. So even when business is not happening, like when the strike was going on, I was still taking classes and learning, and I feel like I didn't lose anything from that. I still feel like I have all my skill sets are where they need to be. So in the world of just, anything can happen. I mean, a strike can happen and now your production's shut down. A freelancing website can change their terms and conditions and you might not agree with it anymore and not want to use them anymore. And you have to think of, oh my gosh, here's a whole stream of my income that's gone. TikTok one day could go because the government decides they don't want it anymore, and then people who are using TikTok for income.
Yeah.
So you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You definitely have to be diverse, and through social media you can definitely accomplish that. But it's your brand, it's your what people know you for, and word of mouth. That's what got me 900 plus orders and gigs. Is that every person I worked with, I treated them like royalty, and they reciprocated it back to me.
That's great. Speaking of your brand, I mean, how does one really go about developing their brand? You know what I mean? Like what makes, I mean, you're a voice actor, you're competing amongst hundreds, if not thousands of other voice actors. What makes you, you know, and how do you, what advice would you give to someone else trying to be a freelancer, you know, to find that, if not literal voice, like in your case, what, you know, their voice is, quote unquote?
I would say my advice to them is to get involved with any form of community that you're interested in. Like for me, with voice acting, I started getting into different online communities out there that were trying to promote young talent or just give you like here's the tricks of things that I didn't know when I was coming up, and I learned from those people. I would say the vast majority of my time was spent just learning from others and just trying to take as much as I could and then make it my own, because you don't want to just be another carbon copy of like J. Michael Collins, for example, if anybody's in voice acting. He's a huge name in demo producing. He's a huge name in coaching. But he has a very specific brand that it's like gold and black. Everything is gold and black. And if I did something like RDB voices and I put it in gold and black, it'd be like, oh, you're ripping off J. Michael Collins. Yeah. You have to be true to who you are. So if you are like me, I'm nerd. I'm a very nerdy, geeky person. So for me, like my first logo looked like something from like He-Man in the 80s, because I grew up with He-Man, and a big RDB and this big gold letter with like all these different colors and stuff. And I started out just like making who I was on to social media more than what we just see. You know, people put up, oh, I went to this vacation or that vacation. I started like just posting things that I was doing. Like, here's me messing up when I'm recording, and people started following me and seeing, oh, he's just a regular guy who's just trying to do this too. I'm not like, I don't have all the answers, but my brand became just this goofy guy, and that's what I'm the goofy voiceover next door. It's kind of like my brand right now. Yeah. I talk to clients in direct sessions, and my first job is to get them to laugh. Just because it breaks the tension for me. So if I'm talking to somebody in England, I'm trying to, get, how's the weather over there? What time of the day is it? That kind of stuff. And, so for branding in general, I would say making sure that you're not spending a ton of money on it. It doesn't have to be anything crazier than just, I went on Canva and I created all my logos and gig photos and pictures and stuff. I use that website, for example. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a crazy produced thing. It just has to be a good representation of who you are when it comes to branding. Cool.
What about demos?
Starting out, it's okay to do your own demos.
Okay.
After that, do not do your own demos, because as much as we all, especially myself, I'll use for an example, I'm a graduate, but I would not engineer my own sound, because even though I think I know what I'm hearing, it might not be what everybody else is hearing. It might be what I'm hearing in my head. So even something as simple as my voice and what I think my voice sounds like, I might mess up the EQ just because I think it needs to be a little flatter, or I need to raise the high end or something. And then I have somebody listen to it as a professional engineer, and I'm like, no, you're good. In fact, we need to lower your low end because your voice is a little bit higher than you think it is. So demo-wise, it's cool starting out doing your own recording, but professional, you got to get somebody else to do it. And there are lots out there. In fact, there are a lot of people that are, like Amy Breedlove, she's like my first coach and also my first demo producer at the same time.
Oh, cool.
So getting coaches who know what they're doing and looking up their credentials, they are all huge assets that can help you with your demos, for sure.
Right, because when you're going through the program, the audio production program, you're doing a portfolio website as you go through it, right, based on all the class projects. But when you're thinking in terms of, after I graduate, what am I going to show prospective employers? It's most likely not going to be that site. It's going to be something else that's more in line with what your avenue or avenues are, right?
It will get to that point. Starting out, though, I had my Wix site that I created, and I had my, I believe it was my audio production demo reel that I had done for sound design. That was my main demo that I used, and I just had some fun with like some extra pictures and created some extra things, but I used that to market initially. I even had the crazy like wix.whatever email address or the website address that nobody can type out, they have to copy and paste. I had that going for a little bit, but then when I'm like, if I want to make this my professional life, I started to take the money I was making and just investing it back into myself, paying for hosting, paying for a website. You know, it does come to a point. But what we learn in school, I started out with that. No issues. No one said anything about my microphone, even though it was a nice AT2035. You know, like it was good.
So there's no shame in starting off with a Wix site. Like
no,
Wix gets a bad rap. You know?
No shame. You're not going to be like blackballed from the industry. Oh, look at him. He's no. If anything, when you're starting out and you're doing the freelance websites, they expect that. Like, if you come in polished, it's more like, why are you charging so little? Like if you're so polished, like it comes to that too.
Okay, but maybe as you get further along, start thinking about, upgrading.
Yes,
you should. Buying a domain or whatever, and, reinvesting the money that you're earning. Yeah, right. That's kind of what it's all about. I
Always.
Imagine. Yeah, yeah. Well, what are some of the things that you recommend if someone has a website, for example, which is where the demo, which we're talking about, but like, what are some key elements of a website, would you say, for a freelancer?
Freelancing in general, very top, you need to have your name, you need to have an email, and I know a lot of people don't like doing this, putting phone numbers, but a phone number. I'm going to say it's important. I've had people, yes, you might end up into a spam rotation somewhere. It's going to happen anyway. But I'd have had people text and call me from my website, like, hey, I found you. Are you available to talk? So very top, email, phone number, and something that just, again, if it's branding, it's the goofy VO next door up at the top. But front and center is a picture. Yeah. Something that shows who you are. You're a person. You have there's blood pumping through the veins and everything. You gotta show that you're a real person. And then directly under your photo, or right next to your photo, like mine is your demo. Like whether it's demos, whether it's a reel, whether it's a video that you have a link to, you cannot have anything that you want your prospective buyers to be found if it requires a scroll down and a wheel. As silly as that sounds. So you can't, anything scrolling, you're already starting to lose because people will just move on to the next one. Right. If I'm a producer, and I've had agents tell me this before too, I don't want to have to search for your demo. Your demo should be the first thing I find. I should be able to download your demo as well. So if your demo is not downloadable or your reels are not downloadable, that's another thing. Because sometimes they don't want to just save a bookmark to your website. They want to download it, put it into a file, and then now they can send out your work to potential producers that want to use you. So website, demo, picture, right there. And then really, other than that, if you want to add some fluff, you can add some testimonials. If people start working with you and they have some nice things to say, that's great. I have a wheel, a ribbon at the bottom that just shows all the people that I've worked with, and I keep adding to them, so it just keeps giving more credibility. And then the very bottom is your contact info, like more than just what's at the top. If you have representation, like myself, I have my manager's name, how to reach him. I have my name, my email, and another picture of me at the bottom. But that's really it. It's three prongs. It's the top intro, the middle, just a picture and a demo, and then the bottom, more contact info.
Any bio or something like that? Or
I have a little blurb. Yeah, I do. But again,
who you are, what you do.
Yeah, you want to have something there, and you want to. I would say, if for writers, if you are a writer, like write it out. If you need to outsource it, there are so many cheap ways to do that. I'm not even advocating AI. I mean, there's just cheap people who will just write for you and help you with bios if you're not the strongest writer. Yeah. But even that, it's not like I've had agents like, I don't care. They'll tell me, I don't. It's nice. That's nice. I want to hear you. I want to. Whatever your meeting is. If you're a producer and you don't have songs that you've front and center, these are the songs that I've mixed. Like it's great that your picture's nice and but I want to hear what you can do.
Right, you're ultimately being judged on the quality of your work.
Yep.
I mean, but you should have a nice website as well and a good-looking picture.
Yes.
Pictures are important, right?
Very organized.
First impressions.
That's why Wix is great. Just plug and play. I don't have to worry about code and nothing.
Yeah. Well, I recall you, in a presentation you did recently saying that you were discovered, I guess, if you will, through social media, right? You're represented now. You have management.
I do. CSP management out of California. Shout out to Gerard George.
Fantastic.
I basically, so this is something that Full Sail did not teach me. I just saw this as like an opportunity. I like to make stupid, funny videos. It's just what I like to do, and I know I'm an older gentleman, but I kind of like the platform that TikTok has. It's easy to edit your video, and I got really quick with it. And I started seeing there was a community of voice actors on TikTok that were just making these like tryout videos. I use them as exercise. I use them as, if I don't feel like looking for a script, I just go on TikTok and I search voice actors that I'm friends with, and they put scripts up for people to use. So I started doing duets, and I did some funny, one-off things for some challenges, and the next thing I know, about a year into it, I got an email on Instagram, because what I do is I post on TikTok, but then I send it to everything else like that. Yeah. TikTok's the hub, and then it goes everywhere else. And it was an Instagram reel that he saw, and Gerard saw it. He clicked on it, and then started going through my entire feed. And he's like, it got funnier and funnier the more it went. So I'm like, I saw something in you, man. So what are you doing right now? And at the time, I was doing only my own thing. I wasn't even thinking of getting a manager, and social media threw a manager at me. It was great. So
it's awesome. Wow. Just something about the quality of the content or whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Like, what kinds of, I mean, even if someone is not like a social media, maven, whatever, or posting their vacation or whatever is going on in their lives, like, you still have to use it, right? I mean, it's still a key ingredient in this whole freelancing thing. Love it or hate it. It's a necessary evil, if you will. So what are the kinds of things they should be thinking about posting, and what platforms too?
Yeah, I would say content that it depends on what you're looking to do. If you're looking to build a community where people come to you looking for your services as like a coach, you want to show more of your life than just this is what I do. Like, you want to show this is what I like doing for fun, this is my family. And that can be a little scary for people, giving a little more of themselves to the world than they would prefer. But if you're looking to build a brand where you are looking to have credibility and to humanize yourself, that aspect has to be there. You have to show a little bit more than just, these are some fun challenges that I do. Now, for me, I'm not looking to be a coach to anybody. I'm looking to just be an actor and be a talent. So content creation, any ideas that I can come up with that, if it's watching somebody else's video and getting an idea, or duetting people's videos, that's where I would say start. If you're not super strong on creating your own content or your own concepts of a funny video, just duet somebody else's video and do something that they're having. That's kind of what I started doing until I got comfortable being able to just be in front of the camera where I don't have somebody else that I'm playing off of. I'm just like talking to you, or I think I humbled myself a little bit by creating a string of like, this is what, I think the title of it is, this is what happens when voice actors snap. And every single video is just me, like when I go crazy in the booth, and I would just save those little clips of audio of me just like losing my mind, like, why can't I say this word? Yeah. Conjunction, or whatever it is. And I would just create a video off of that, of just playing my mess ups and stuff, and that got traction. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, you don't have to be a guru of social media. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there. I know people that are voice actors and other freelancers that just, like, they tell jokes, and that's their whole thing is just like dad jokes, and that gets them traffic. It's okay. As long as that's who you are and you're comfortable doing it. I mean, I would say just stick to that. And even if you're, nothing to do with your job, if you just want to showcase a thing that you like sports or whatever, do videos on that kind of stuff. It's,
Okay. Explain, you said duetting, is that what you said? So explain what that is.
So in a TikTok video, if somebody posts something like, for example, Chris Greenwood, or Greenfield, sorry, he does a series of like, here's a voice acting script for a villain. Can you be a villain? Show us what you got. And then he just steps out of the camera, and on the screen is a script.
Okay.
So you duet that video, and you wait for him to walk out of the camera, and then you read the script as if you're the actor. That would be a duet of that video. And it shows somebody, if I was trying to do a character outside of my comfort zone, like a smaller kid or an older gentleman, and my voice isn't quite there. Like, those are the places that I test those out to see how does it play. Yeah. And I get audience reaction of like, oh, it's terrible, or like, the internet they'll humble you pretty quick. So that's what a duet is. Essentially just picking somebody else's video and just doing something on top of it.
Oh, okay. All right. Like piggybacking on or whatever. Yep. It could be another term for it.
Yep.
I gotcha. It sounds to me like, part of this is also, I mean, especially in your field, I mean, you strike me as someone who's serious but not super serious. You don't, like, you're having a lot of fun, that seems to be important as well, I would imagine. Yeah. Yes,
to keep my sanity. Yes, it's very important, because we can get lost in our work very quickly. Yeah. I would categorize myself still, even though I'm the success that I'm having, I still am not a full-time voice actor. I still have to work a 9-to-5 job to supplement that. But that's something that over time I'm hoping to build to where it's just that is my gig, because that's what I love. It's what I'm passionate about. Yeah. But I have to mix in the fun with it. If it was all work, I don't know how I would do it. That first year and a half, I think my wife maybe saw me 30 days out of the entire year at night, past 8 o'clock, because every night I would just go into my booth and just start grinding away and looking for work. And when you're starting out freelancing, you're not going to be able to charge the highest prices. So you have to kind of grind at a certain level until you get a level of credibility in the industry, and then you can start charging higher rates. And now I'm to the point where I've had coaching, I have the equipment, I have the experience. I'm not charging anything less than like industry standard rates. I'm using the GVAA rate guide for my rates. I'm not just picking numbers out of the air, because if I did, I probably would be undercutting myself all the time. Because we think, as much as we are good at something, we're also our worst critics, and we also will be highly critical on things that we do and maybe not think that we can charge that much. Yeah. And it took a little while, but I got to the point where, you know what, I'm just as good as these guys that are charging full prices. So yeah, I'm gonna do that now too. And it was probably about halfway through that 900 gig, the completion, before I finally had that realization. Yeah. But it's if you have the training and if you've put in the time, you absolutely have the right to charge pro rates.
Well, that's a really good point as well, or topic, because we get asked that all the time. How much should I charge, especially when you're starting off? I mean, maybe for people that don't have a ton of work yet to show, but a few projects here and there, how would you advise them to figure out what they should charge?
Yeah, I would say, especially starting out, you do have to go a little bit on the lower end of the spectrum, but you don't have to give it away for nothing. Like there are people who, I'll just act for free and just put my name in the credits, and that's fine too, but eventually that'll get to a point where that's not paying the bills. Like that'll get you in the door, but you do have to scale up your pricing. And I think it all comes down to just where you are out in your journey, whether you're doing sound design or you're a voice actor or if you're not anything. If you're working in that industry in some capacity, you have peers around you that you can lean on to say, okay, at this stage of my game, where should I be at charging? You can. It's not secret information. In fact, most, especially voice actors, they want you to charge pro rates, because if you're not, you're undercutting them, and it's dragging the whole industry down. So, if anything, if you reached out to somebody who's in your industry who's a professional, they will tell you what their rates are, because they want you to charge the same, so they don't cut you out. So, don't be afraid to ask a more seasoned veteran person in any industry or for freelancing, what are they charging? Because they're going to want you to not undercut them.
That's great advice. Yeah, and I imagine like a lot of the sites you mentioned previously, Fiverr, Upwork. I mean, there's also one called SoundLister that's specific for audio professionals. I don't know if you've heard of it, but if not, check it out. SoundLister. I mean, you'll find like sound designers, composers, sound editors, whatever on there. It's audio specific, like an Upwork for audio professionals. But you can see what they're charging, I suppose, like depending on their skill level, what they rate themselves. I think they can, beginner, intermediate, advanced, whatever. So.
That's how I started. I mean, I was looking at other people's prices. Like, okay, he's charging $100 per 50 words. I'm gonna go 75 because I'm not quite there. Right. And then eventually you just start. Yeah, you build up, and it's not even just sticking to one area, especially when it comes to like freelance websites like Fiverr. Like you can do voice acting, you can do sound design, and you can do script writing. And those are 3 different prongs all in one website that you might have different levels of expertise. So if I was going to do this today and I have all these different things available to me as a student, I would start out as a novice in all these areas, and any area that I started to get traction, I would build up my prices, and get to like a pro level, they call it. And it's like Fiverr Pro. And Fiverr Pro, like you can't charge anything lower than like $100 per gig as a minimum, and then from there. But not everything has to be Fiverr Pro. Some of it could be, I'm just a freelance novice copywriter, but I'm a professional voice actor, and there's still 2 prongs of income that I can get from. Pricing-wise, though, you look at what others are doing. Look at the successful people in your industry that they're doing, and just ask them. Like, it's okay. Most people are very happy to talk about themselves.
That's great advice. Yeah, I mean, that's the other key, I think, piece of this is like connecting with your community, right? Like whatever it is you want to do. I mean, yes, on one level, it's your competition, but on the other hand, you're all, kind of in this together as well. Oops, there goes my in-ear. But yeah, I mean, I imagine there are plenty of organizations that for every line of work within the audio field, right? Like you belong to which the one for voice actors or?
NAVA is the National Association of Voice Actors, and then I'm also a member of. Well, I'm a member of the GVAA Academy, which is where I get my rate guide for.
Okay.
So cool. I use their rate guide because it's what the industry standard is. I'm not union yet.
Okay.
But one day that'll be the next thing.
You're getting there.
I'm getting there. I'm trying. It's funny. Like once you get in and you start getting like Lego Technic, for example. Like my Lego commercial was probably the most lucrative commercial I did because it's Lego. Yeah. But I didn't do it through my manager. I didn't do it through a freelance site. I did it through direct marketing. I marketed to Lego and just said, hey, I have a voice that I think your audience would like. Listen to it, please. And they were like, you know what? We have this commercial coming up for Lego Technic. Would you like to audition? And I just said yes, and they sent me the audition. And it was just this quick back and forth. And next thing I know, I'm on a live directed session with somebody from England. And we're doing it over my booth.
Wow.
And yeah, I just, put myself out there and just, that's all you can do.
Yeah. That's great. What about gear? That's another topic. That's something that people probably, I would imagine,
Oh, yeah.
How much do I need to spend? What level do I need to be at?
I will say, starting out, I had my launch box. I used that launch box package for voice acting for the first year and a half of my life. I didn't need to. In fact, the interface that I got, which I believe was at the time was a Scarlett 18i20, was more powerful than I needed because it had multiple channels to record an entire band. I only needed 1 or 2 for 2 different microphones.
Yeah.
That was my interface for the forever. Actually, that was longer than a year and a half. It was almost the first 3 years. I just recently got an Apollo Twin, which I'm super happy about.
Cool.
But microphone, the AT2035 that came with my launch box, and all the cables. All that stuff is pretty much with my launch box. I didn't have to buy anything extra. What I had to spend money in was coaching and the soundproofing of my room, because you don't get nothing for they're not gonna soundproof your room for full sale. But
okay.
So I had to buy like
Yeah,
a vocal
anyway.
booth, which I got a blanket for it. I didn't do anything. I didn't go out and buy that crazy whisper rooms that you see people use. I just used some blankets and my closet, and that's where I started recording in it. So gear-wise, I mean, you could start out with a $50. What's the microphone I'm thinking of? I think it's an AT2020, I think is the model. The non-USB version, to be very clear about that, no USB microphones. The XLR version of that microphone maybe is $100 or less. Sometimes around Christmas they have some great deals. A Scarlett 2i2 or a Scarlett Solo interface, and just a decent working laptop that can handle something as simple as Fruity Loops or GarageBand as a general practice.
Yeah.
If you have a little bit of money, and we have Logic Pro as students. Logic Pro is what I use to this day. I've never done anything different than what I've been using in school. That, for $150 to $200, you could start out being a voice actor with just that equipment. From there, if you want to compete at a professional level, you're going to have to put a little money into a microphone. You're probably going to have to spend anywhere from $500 to $1,000, and that's just on like high-end, like Sennheiser or Rode NTA, I think it is NTA1. Those microphones are like pretty standard for voice actors, and that's like when you get to a certain level. Starting out, you don't have to invest a bunch of money. I don't have a whole lot of overhead that I have to worry about each month either, because I'm not really paying for subscriptions. I'm doing my own direct marketing.
Yeah.
So equipment-wise and gear-wise, as long as it's not a USB microphone, and as long as it can handle an audio workstation, a digital audio workstation like Logic or what's another one that's really good? FL Studio, I think, is one that students use, and Reaper. Reaper is another one that's less expensive.
That's the other one I'm thinking of that people use all the time.
I know.
I know which one. I think we're both having the same help.
But bottom line is, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't. You can do this very minimal. It's when you start getting traction with your business that you have to start showing a little investment into it. I would start investing money into coaching and sound equipment, soundproofing equipment.
Right. So is the USB microphone, is that for voice? Does that apply to voice acting or anything in the audio?
Anything.
Whatever
any
someone
good
wants
engineer
to do in this field, okay? Just because that's important. If anything, you take away anything from this.
Yes. Any good engineer will tell you they can sniff out a USB microphone in very, very minimal time, and it will absolutely tank your auditions because it won't even get past the engineer. Like they'll just nope, next,
Right.
no. Oh, this one's good. Listen to this one. Like you get doors closed on you if you just don't have those certain things. Like people that have a loud background noise, like you're gonna have to tell your house to be quiet for the next 15 minutes, no running around, and just have as clear audio as you can create because it can be heard. It's very easy.
There is a minimum standard you must maintain to even be allowed to play, or to even get on the field.
Oh yeah, I mean even if you did audiobooks, like AWS, doing audiobooks for Amazon, or there's another big one too. Those all have minimums that you have to meet. Like when it comes to sound floors and things, you have to have a minimum negative 60 dB sound floor in most recording scenarios to even play. So if you're in a house that has trains running by it every hour, it's tough. That's why a lot of my recording happened at night. It happened from 8:30, 9 o'clock at night till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. That's when I was doing most of my work.
Wow.
Yeah. And then also getting up at 8, 9 and going to work and working until that time. So it just, when I said my wife saw me for 30 days, it's a pretty accurate description. She'd be like, I'd add it all together about 30 days of time in a year. Because I was just hungry for it. I knew that there was opportunity out there. As tough as it was going through the pandemic, there was so much opportunity for people who were looking to just freelance and just start creating your own avenues into things that were never thought of before. A lot of great ideas came from that time frame that people still use to this day. The strike has now recently have ended, so people are going into studios a lot more, but you still don't have to live in LA, you don't have to live in New York to do this. You can live anywhere in the world, really. As long as you have a stable internet connection, you're usually pretty good.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, talking about the hours that you put into this, and just the time and energy makes me think of another topic to consider is just, the self-care, the mental health aspect. Freelancing is not easy. It's not a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, punch the clock type of gig. Like it's a lot of people call it feast or famine, I guess. So and just sometimes you put in super long hours. How do you, what advice would you give for someone just to, as they approach that, to keep in mind for mental health, self-care?
I can't stress this enough. You have to take your time for yourself. It might seem like you're being counterproductive by not being in your booth or you're not in front of your computer, but the dividends you get from just taking mental breaks and having a set schedule for it. I can also say that if it wasn't for the organization that my family has with our house dynamic because of my wife, I don't know if I would have taken those breaks myself, but it's so necessary. And this kind of goes into your social media marketing, if you're not sure what to do, going out to a park and just recording yourself out saying, I'm out of my booth today and look at the wonderful sky, whatever it might be. Those videos get tons of traffic because it's people just being like, yeah, look, he's a human being just like me. He needs to take breaks. He's human. You're not in there every single day as a machine. It will show in your work. I can go, I could spend all that time, but I know that those gigs that I was doing up to like 300, 400 gigs weren't as strong as the first 100 because I knew that I had more time and I was putting more time into it and I was rushing those. Yeah. So any amount of time that you can build for yourself outside of your work area to just decompress will pay back itself when you go back into the booth the next time because you're just refreshed. If you have to work all hours of the night, that's great. Maybe pick a night that you don't. And the work's going to be there still. It's okay.
I guess when you're starting off, you got to kind of do what you have to do, and then you get to a point where maybe you have all the offers are coming in, but then you still have to find that time like for yourself and to be a human, like you said. I mean, you have a family, you're married, you have a child. I assume you like spending time with them.
Yes, I like to vacation. Yes.
Good.
But it comes down to you do have to make yourself do it because we do and especially freelancers because it's just if I don't work I'm not getting paid. It will show in your work. It will come out in your auditions. It will be stressed. It'll be. I used to use this term when I was in sales, where like you're selling from fear. You're working from fear. Essentially, if you're working or too afraid to get out of your booth to spend some time, even if it's just we live in Florida, just go to the beach, spend an afternoon on the beach, or go to an evening at the beach instead of going into your booth, and look how much better your auditions are the next day. Yeah. It does work, I promise. But you do have to make yourself do it because we're all, especially if you're hungry and you're like, I want to make this my job, you don't know when to stop until you budget it.
No, it's really important to know your limits and to beware of the potential for burnout.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. We're almost done here. We have maybe a couple minutes left, but the one other topic I thought I would bring up is, and perhaps you've experienced this, is that, okay, all right, well, actually, before we go into that part, I'll side note that, but we have apparently a question on the chat that we'd like to answer.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we have Elements 018, going back to when we were talking about gear. They have a fairly random question. As a voice actor, do you have to do much mixing and or audio processing for projects outside of your demo reels?
Two parts to that question. The one is I don't do a whole lot of editing and mixing when I'm dealing with established clients that have a sound engineer on staff, or if they have if it's a production house, they have their own in-house engineers. Those are the best jobs because I don't have to do nothing but send them raw audio, and then they do all the cutting. When I'm working as a freelancer on Fiverr and Upwork and Voices, I am my own engineer, I am my own masterer, so I have to do a lot more mixing. Everything pretty much has to be broadcast quality to that point if you're doing a high-end job. So your mixing skills that you learned here definitely will come into play because you do have to bring everything to a normalization. Everything's usually negative 3 dB. They want that so they can play around with the sound a little bit. So depending on the job, you will have to do a lot of mixing and mastering yourself. Yes.
Sure. We have another question, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is from my crew, and they wanted me to ask you this because I asked them this from a random question generator. Do you prefer, do you prefer mountains or lakes?
Wait, one more time?
Do you prefer?
Or like a vacation or something like that. Do you prefer the mountain or the lake?
Oh, for
It's
vacation.
a MEMS.
Yeah,
I 100% prefer the mountains.
we don't have a lot of those down here, do we?
Fantastic.
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very important.
Yeah, I actually just came back from North Georgia not too long ago. It was beautiful, right before the too cold weather starts.
Excellent. Well, I believe we're pretty much almost close. Well, the one thing that I was going to bring up to you, bring up as well, was just for those that might be, experiencing imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, like to what extent you've had that, like, the feeling, can I do this? Am I good enough? Do I have what it takes to succeed, in this field? Thoughts?
It's something I still struggle with, to be honest with you, as an honest, like, fully transparent. There are days where I see people post jobs that they got. This is where, like, the lovely side of social media sometimes can be the dark side of it, is that you're seeing everybody post about everything that they've done. My gosh, when the strike was announced that it was over, it was like a tidal wave of it. Let me just tell you what I'm doing in all these projects. And I've like, oh my, I am doing nothing right now. What am I doing? And yeah, so the imposter syndrome of setting in of do I belong at the table? Do I even fit in here? It's something that pretty much every freelancer will struggle with, because if you're not doing something, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel that you're not good enough. And to those people, I say you just have to push through. You have to. It's great to celebrate other people's wins, because that will help give you some perspective that it's definitely doable. But don't get into the mode of like, I am taking every single job that I audition for to heart, and if I don't get it, I must not be good enough. That is so not true. It could not be further from the truth. And any casting director or somebody who works in the industry will tell you, a lot of times it's just because the project is not right for you. I went to a convention not too long ago up in Atlanta, and Deborah Wilson was the keynote speaker. And she brought up the fact that when you have that imposter syndrome set in, she uses this visualization of thousands and thousands of people all standing in front of one door. And that door will open, and the first person gets to walk through, and then the door closes, and the rest of us are all standing outside. But the beautiful part is we just move to the right, and there's another door. And if that door opens up, someone's going through it. It might not be you. Okay, move on to the next door. There are doors that will continue to open for you the more and more you put yourself out there. So if you're feeling like you're not right fit for it, or that you might not be the right person for that job, there's another job around the corner. And you just have to keep staying consistent, keep training, and keep practicing. That's why I love TikTok, just for the fact that I get to practice every single day, and it doesn't cost me a thing.
Excellent. Great advice. Well, Ricky, thanks so much for your time today. And that's really all the time we have, actually.
Awesome.
We hope you've all enjoyed hearing about thriving in the gig economy as much as we've enjoyed talking about it. Remember that the Audio Production Town Hall is a monthly event, ordinarily happening on the last Monday of each class. Keep an eye on Full Sail 1 for information about next month's Town Hall. We'd also like to thank the show production students in this month's Audio-Visual Technologies class and their course director, John Cost, for handling all the behind-the-scenes production of the Audio Production Town Hall. Great job, team. Thanks for joining us, everyone.